Hello everyone, I'm going to have a look at scatterplots. So before we talk about scatterplots, we just need to define our variables as either response or explanatory variables. So I'm going to read this. This comes from the textbook, which has this cover, General Mathematics textbook. And this is what it says about response and explanatory variables. When two variables are linked together in some way so that they vary together, the data generated is called bivariate data. When we analyse bivariate data, we try to answer questions such as, is there a relationship between these two variables? And more specifically, does knowing the value of one variable tell us anything about the value of the other variable? For example, let us take our two variables to be the mark a student obtained on a test and the amount of time they spent studying for that test. It seems reasonable that the more time they spend studying, the better the mark they will achieve. That is, the amount of time spent studying may help explain the mark obtained. For this reason, in statistics, we call the explanatory variable, for this reason, in statistics, we call this the explanatory variable. And since the mark may go up or down in response to the amount of time spent studying, we call the mark the response variable. So in general, the value of the explanatory variable for a case is thought to partially explain the value of the response variable for that individual. On that page, it has a summary for that one. So we have the explanatory variable is the variable we expect to explain or predict the value of the response variable. Now, there's a note there because often if you read other textbooks, they will talk about independent and dependent variables. So the independent variable is the explanatory variable and the response variable is what we call the dependent variable because what you get depends on what went in. Okay, so now you know what you can name your two variables. Go to page 12 and we're going to have a look at scatterplots. So the first step in investigating an association between two numerical variables is to construct a visual display of the data, which we call a scatterplot. So that there's lots of different ways to construct scatterplots. So we're going to start by just doing it manually. That's plotting all the information. But illustrate the process by constructing a scatterplot of the marks students obtained on the examination and the time they spent studying for the examination. So there's talking the mark they obtain is the response and the time they spent studying is the explanation variable. So they've got all this information here. So the first student they got information for spent 4 hours studying and got a mark of 41%. And then you can see the second student, they spent 36 hours studying and they got a mark of 87%. And they keep going. They've got all the different bits of information there. So we're going to have a look at how to plot this. In a scatterplot, each point represents a single case. In this particular instance, it's a student. So if we have a look, you need to set up your horizontal and vertical axes. The horizontal axis, this one across here, I've got to change that. Okay, that's like your x-axis. And then you've got your vertical axis. That's like your y-axis, but in this case, we're going to name the horizontal axis the time. Okay, see that? The time in hours, and the vertical axis is the mark as a percent. Okay, so, and then you need to think about your response variable is the y-axis and the explanatory variable is the x-axis, or the independent is the x-axis and the dependent is the y-axis. Okay, so you can see all that there. Get rid of all that scribble. Let's start plotting the information they've given us. So the time is the horizontal axis. 4 hours, so this is going every 5, so 4 would be about here. For 4 hours studying, this person got a mark of 41%. See here? And that's why they put a dot on that spot. Okay, and so you keep doing that for all the pairs of information you've got. For 36 hours, the next one, for 36 hours, they got a mark of 87%. So you need to go over here to 36 hours, which would be here, all the way up to 87, which would be about here, roughly across there. And so that you get a dot there. Okay, next one. For 23 hours, they got a mark of 67%. So 23 would be roughly here. Got to go up until you get to the 67%, which would be roughly here. And you put a dot there. So I'll get rid of all this scribble here, and you can see on the next page, they've plotted all the pairs of information. And there they are. So there was the one I just said, the 30, show up here, the 36 and the 87%, there's the dot. And then the next one I think I said was, what was it? 23 hours and 67%. 23 hours was up here, 67% was across there, and there's that next spot. So what you can see there is a scatter plot of all the information showing the hours that a student studied and the result that they got. More later.